The first days of my first car. Bit of background: for my 16th birthday, I got a 2005 convertible PT Cruiser. Yay, it was a PT Cruiser, but it was very reliable and it was a convertible. I had a lot of fun summers driving that car around. That's not the interesting part though. The interesting part has to do with everything surrounding the first few weeks my family had this car. My parents bought this car from the superintendent of schools at the time. They got it at $500, which was really cheap for a car that was only 3 years old. Turns out, there was a reason. This car was awful. In the 3 years this guy had the car, it looked like he never cleaned it once. There was trash of all sorts in there: moldy fast food and wrappers, spilled drinks, newspapers, old cans of body spray. The seats themselves were a gunky, stainy mess that couldn't really be removed with regular scrubbing. They even found a dead mouse in the car. Later diagnostics into why the air conditioning didn't work revealed that there was a mouse nest inside of the air vents, thus preventing any air from getting through into the car. They ended up having to pressure wash the inside of the car 3 times in order to get it to looking like a normal, decently used car. I only saw the end result of 3 days straight of intense cleaning and pressure washing. They did a pretty fantastic job, given the starting point. Fast forward to the first week that I actually have the car. My sister was a senior at the same high school I went to, and also had a parking pass to boot. You could remove them and put them in other cars. The pass itself just applied to one person. Thus, she started taking my car to school since I rode with her every morning and afternoon. Well, the first week that we're driving the car, there is a drug search conducted by the school. As a part of that, they bring in drug dogs to check the lockers, and they take them around the cars to check those too. Wouldn't you guess it, the dogs get set off by my car. My sister gets pulled out of class and taken to the office where she talks to the school officer. "Officer, ma'am, is there anything you want to tell us?" Sister: No, not sure why I'm down here. Officer: as you know, we had a drug search today, and the dogs picked up something on your car. Are there drugs in your vehicle? Sister: well, if there were, that would mean that our superintendent is potentially a pothead. Officer: what? My sister proceeds to give the officer the rundown of how we got the car, how long we've had it, and the cleaning we had to do on it. The officer, after hearing this, discusses it with the other staff. Long story short, they decide they don't want to go down that rabbit hole and send my sister back to class. We did do another sweep on the car after that, and didn't find anything at all. Nothing happened, superintendent-wise, as a result of that. Still, it's funny to think of the scare the administration got as a result of that. Drive, we bought a car from the superintendent of schools. It was a huge mess that required 3 days straight of thorough cleaning. Within the first week of taking it to school, it sets off the drug dogs and gets my sister taken out of class. I see dead people. Not a joke. It took me few years to realize that this isn't normal. During my early childhood, whenever I spoke of Amon or Rhea, my parents would chalk it down to my overactive imagination. They became concerned after I crossed that age of having imaginary friends but continued to speak to thin air. They took me to a psychiatrist who laughed when I confided in her. She asked my parents to be patient with me as I would be growing out of that phase eventually. The dead were usually friendly, some lost, some sad. Some still coming to terms that they had passed on. But once, one of them turned violent out of shock of his death. Though he couldn't hurt me, the damage had already been done. I was scared and scarred, so much so that we had to move. Not wanting a repeat, I kept to myself this time. Whenever I saw a dead person in my new neighborhood, I just kept a straight face and plodded on ahead. Many years have passed and I'm currently in high school. These years in between were best spent with my best friend Benny and his older brother Gru. Their company was enough to distract me from noticing the dead. I finally became normal around them. My parents were happy to see their daughter making real friends and not talking about death all the time. But do good things ever truly last? Benny was killed a week ago. Shot in the face. In a neighborhood of little reputation. What was he doing there? I don't know, but it has been very difficult to pretend to not see him. My now dead friend caught me staring at him sadly a couple of times, and I had to avert my eyes to ward off any suspicion. I had to remind myself that he was gone forever. Gru seemed to bear the brunt of it. He became sullen and withdrawn after that. I overheard some words like accidental and practicing over the next few days. One day, as I was walking towards the classroom, I saw the dead were excited and looking at each other in anticipation. Benny came in front of me and said, "Maya, if you can hear me, run." Before I could react, Gru stepped into the corridor with a gun. Now I understood why and how my friend had died. I just hope I don't join him anytime soon. Hentai at school. So I was giving a friend a flash drive that had maps and skins for the game Osu on it. But what I forgot is that it had an old backup of my stash of hentai on it. The reason being because I was gonna get my computer fixed and I didn't want all my work to get messed up and the countless hours searching for good stuff to add. He kept it for a couple days and was supposed to return it on a Monday morning a couple weeks ago. I was on medication at the time and got some awful side effects that lead to me staying home. 1 p.m. I get a text from a friend saying my flash drive was handed in to a teacher. I freaked out remembering that I forgot to remove the hentai and regretting to go to school the next day. It turns out one of my friends, not anymore after this, stole the flash drive from my friend I gave it to and handed it to the teacher saying there is stuff she might want to see. I walk into 5th period. Nervous as hell, I ask how much trouble I'm in for the flash drive and she says, "How much trouble do you think you're in out of 10? I say, "Well, knowing what's on there at least an 11, in which the whole class laughed at. She didn't give it back but was gonna look through it that night and decide the next day. Wednesday. I get called to the office. The principal isn't very happy about it and asks why I had watched porn in the first place. I just said, "Well, I'm a 15-year-old boy. It's literally natural." She sat there staring at me like she had no idea what I was talking about. She also probably didn't like the fact when she called it anime porn and I corrected her saying it's hentai. She then asked if my mom knows what I watch and if she cares. I told her yes, she knows and she could literally care less about what I watch. Somehow by the almighty power of God I get let go with just a warning. This is probably my luckiest moment in my life here. So moral of the story is, don't forget to erase your hentai on a flash drive. Also, keep it well hidden on a computer.